Greetings and welcome to In-Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. We are here at MITTCO, Musical Instruments of Trinidad and Tobago Company Limited. We're here to speak with Director of Sales and Business Development, Akua, Leith. How are you doing, Mr. Leith?
I'm excellent, man. Excellent.
Give me an overview about MITTCO, thank you.
MITTCO is a steel pan manufacturing company. We are located in Diamond Vale, the industrial estate factory with Diamond Vale. This company was really established to manufacture steel pans, all the way from tenor all the way down to bases. We also have a setup that encompasses a workflow where you have administration, you have sales, you have marketing, and also manufacturing. That workflow is set up in a real nice factory flow where we have specializations from sinking to grooving to tuning to burning to polishing, all persons focusing on that point of the process. It's very new, but very futuristic in thinking, is also to really help encourage persons to get into that part of the steel pan industry where manufacturing and tuning is more or less dwindling. You know, it's a dying craft, I will say. So with a setup like this, more or less we see as a campus, we could align students, we could align persons in turns alongside the professionals in the industry.
And it feels like you started to answer the question already, because many people who are involved with steel pan, they'll be playing, you also conduct,
Yes.
And things of that nature. Getting into manufacture, what was the influence that really said, this is something that I need to be a part of?
Well, a lot of persons don't know that I actually started off my career making steel pans. I worked at Panland for 3 years, and then I left there to go off to university, where I more went on the performance side. So I did my degree at University of the West Indies, and in the community, I arranged, I composed, I also taught at UTT, community bands, community projects. So that side of the coin where I think I was able, I was fortunate to kind of experience almost like a full industry output from manufacturing all the way down to performance. And the need to come back in at this point more or less came from observing what's happening in the fraternity right now, where persons are becoming professional, but at the end of that journey of education, what next? And teaching at UTT, and I'm sitting in Napa and I'm saying these students have 4 years of studies, and at the end of that road, where are we pointing them to go? And at the point in time, I was directing the National Steel Symphony Orchestra. And even with the lack of the ability to hire persons at the rate in which they were graduating, also posed the problem of what next for these industry professionals, and also persons who have a level of experience. So the MITTCO idea was part of a bigger ecosystem. It was a vision that came in 2018 to set up what I would say pillars around the industry. So you're talking about manufacturing, you're talking about a conservatory, you're talking about a private orchestra. Those 3 pillars with the initiative of driving pan in schools, you're talking about stimulating markets that will bring in more persons to be able to have a professional career down the road. And then the other 5 pillars was to bring a level of pride, where can we see a ping pong to what we call now a traditional pan, all shiny from a convex to concave, 3 note to 29 notes, you know? Where are we seeing those things? Where can we see the persons who are responsible for those innovations, a hall of fame of some nature, where we can celebrate the persons who would have paved the way for persons like myself? So those were other 2 pillars, and then we need money. We need money to do research. We need money to do developments. We need money for scholarships, because there's a lot of persons who are interested in doing foreign studies. I mean, I was fortunate, as you said, to have a Fulbright scholarship, but those who don't have that level of opportunity, how can we support that type of initiative? And then beyond that, Panorama is lovely, and I think it's definitely a place to, it's in its right place and it's here to stay, but we need a festival of some nature where it encourages creativity and not just competition, where persons could go wild with their imagination and possibilities of what these instruments could do. And then the last thing is a proper performance space where an audience could experience the full experience of a steel pan performer. Not just seeing their faces, but seeing their hands, maybe a revolving stage, maybe a retractable roof. So all those things came in 2018, and this is where we started. I was able to put together a significant team. Mario Joseph, my other business partner and director. We have Mr. David Hackett, and we have the Haddad brothers, the co-CEOs of MITTCO. Really a great combination of what it is you're seeing unfolding here.
But it's one thing to say you have all these ideas and I can hear the passion and the enthusiasm coming off of you. But talk to me about some of that nitty-gritty, please, because you wrote to help you with good intentions.
Exactly.
So it's one thing to say, okay, well, this might be a good idea.
Yeah.
But what are some of the steps, especially when you're thinking about private interests and the Haddad brothers? They wouldn't necessarily throw money behind something that they don't see working out, getting a return on investment. Right. So what was that drive that led them to say, yeah, we're gonna put resources behind it?
I to today still think I can't answer that totally, because honestly, I had no idea. This is something very new for me, but I was guided via proper business steps. You have to have a proposal, put all your thoughts down on paper. I had a good friend, L'Oreal Broom Georges, who helped me pull together these business plans and that sort of thing. And then beyond that, it is the need for it in society. I think beyond just my passion and the outlook, when you look around, there's nothing of this nature. And being in the land of pan being our national instrument, we're talking about having the invention coming out of our soil. I think we need to now show that via proper infrastructure and good business partnerships, private and corporate and even government. So these are the things I think beyond the need and the passion, persons could see on their own. And if there is a level of long-term return, because this is not something that will return a profit in any short nature, but definitely I think for the long haul, I could see it's being worth the while of the investors.
But talking about being worth the while of the investors, you also made mention of the fact that this is not the only pan manufacturing entity in Trinidad and Tobago. So what do you think are some of the things that makes it a little different? Because to me right now, I think I hear MITTCO more. So what are some of those things that makes it distinct, a little more apparent, a little more visual, a little more accessible from what we can see?
Well, definitely the steel pan industry in Trinidad is a cottage industry. Still persons, craftsmen working from their homes, from secluded places in the pan yards. MITTCO is still part of the cottage industry as much as we have an infrastructure of this nature. And we have to grow that capacity as time go by. But what MITTCO is able to do is bring proper business acumen to the table. So we talk about marketing. We have a marketing team. We have persons who dedicated to our social media platform. So there's all these things in place that more or less keeps or promotes the intentions of the company. Beyond that, we have a proper general manager and administrative staff who deals with the day-to-day. We have professional craftspersons who really come in and put in their part in terms of production and to bring forth a quality instrument. So I think the governance of the company is definitely something that is bringing us to this nature of being public and really showing a professional side of what the market could really be.
And I think I also appreciate the fact that you talk about you have in different individuals with different roles. And do you find in the cottage industry, the lay of the land, you have different people doing different things in the sense that is it one person generally outside of MITTCO cutting the drum, sinking, firing, marking, scoring, versus the way how it seems as though there are different persons who may be doing that at MITTCO? Is that a difference?
Yes, that's a difference as well. So you'll find there are builders and there are tuners. So there are persons who may have a building team that will build the pans and then will take it to the tuners who will then tune the instruments to carry to the final delivery point to the customer. beyond that, and it's critical to know, we don't have a lot of these persons around. So, when we talk about the professionals, we actually share them right here. So some of the guys who work in MITTCO do also have their private practices happening as well. And that is critical for growth, because these are the experienced persons. These are the persons who we know could carry on that tradition and that level of professionalism and the craftsmanship. And to have them as part of this is critical for the survival of the industry. And I'm seeing it as I said, campus related, where we get a certain quality of instruments coming out from a certain quality of artisans in a specific space, which could be enticing to the new upcoming professionals, and that marriage, I think, will work going forward.
And talking about quality and campus, that is something that I want us to come back to when we return from this break. We are speaking with the director at MITTCO Sales and Business Development, Akua Leith. Stay with us. We return with more. Welcome back. We are speaking with Director of Sales and Business Development at MITTCO, Akua Leith. And just before we took the break, you were talking about quality and that kind of campus-like atmosphere. I think sometimes when people talk about steel pan, they don't necessarily think of the range of possibilities that are possible. You just spoke about some of your students. There have been conversations about people involved in metallurgy. That might be something that's necessary in terms of like a bass pan. You might need these things to get better resonance versus a tenor. Is that something that MITTCO is thinking about eventually? Or what are your thoughts on those kind of things, doing it here in Trinidad and Tobago?
It's necessary, it's critical, where we see the engineering departments of UTT, the engineering departments as UE, as part of this whole ecosystem as well, where we have capstones coming out of those spaces that were specifically tailored for research and development around the steel pan. We are not seeing ourselves as the do-all and all, but we see ourselves where collaboration is key. And we are here to collaborate, we are here to have conversations and see how we could project and push forward the art form.
Is it art or science in terms of tuning? Can you just get someone who is a musical student and they're right with their hands, and you bringing them in and say, okay, well, we can train you to do this? What's the next step of developing those tuners if it's a very small pool?
It's definitely science, and it comes with time. So definitely you see tuners, most of them coming through the building process at first, and then advancing to the tuning. Mario could definitely give you a good insight on that, but it's almost 29 years he has been in the business. And so that level of time got him to become the master tuner that he is. So we are seeing students, or we should see it as students coming with an interest, musician or not, come with an interest to want to dedicate that time and commit to that process. And eventually, over time, you'll see them become the professionals that they are, or that they could be, sorry.
I think that also leads to a certain level of mentorship, so needing to get people, while you still have people like Mario and rest of master tuners.
Exactly.
Pass on that knowledge as well.
Exactly, like Birch Kelman, I mean, he's not 100% right now, but a master tuner in his own right. I mean, you saw him take persons. Mario worked alongside him in Renegades. You see Augustus Peters working with him closely. So that type of marriage is what we need going forward. And just as we see him pass on that information, it's due to the others to do the same. I mean, we came from a culture where these things were secrets. Persons don't even want the panist who is playing in the same band they're tuning for see the process they were going through. And I think that has given us this lack of continuity. However, that mindset is changing. And it's about mentorship. That is critical. So those guys have to see themselves as mentors, as professors, who should be looking for persons like themselves. Beyond just MITTCO coming with this whole master plan. This should be a thinking of the artisans that are in the country right now and worldwide going forward.
And you spoke of marriage. I want to go back to marriage, but in terms of what MITTCO is doing in the private sector. One of the things I think that made MITTCO a little more visible is work at CPL.
Yes.
And what kind of potential and impact, even like the feedback you were getting while it was happening, everywhere CPL playing, MITTCO there, you have people asking questions, you have President Irfan Ali actually getting this gold-plated pan. What was the thrust behind that, and what was the feedback?
Well, that was a bold move we made very early, because we launched on August the 11th, 2022, and CPL was in October. So we saw it as a good opportunity to bring a level of awareness of what is coming to the market. We sponsored CPL, and with that sponsorship, we were able to get steel pan becoming the official musical instrument of that tournament. That was the first time for that type of recognition in the Caribbean, and we saw CPL as the right vehicle to carry that mantle forward. We're talking about cricket, we're talking about Caribbean, we're talking about steel pan. I think, as I told the CPL directors, I think you're missing one ingredient, the steel pan. We now have the best cricket festival or best cricket competition in the world. That brings a certain level of excitement, especially for the team that did the on-ground executions. When we went to the islands, when we were able to partner the DJ with the panists, with Duvon and those DJs having this time with the stadium and having all the supporters really getting a first-hand experience of the possibilities that the instrument could bring to a league like that. And then the viewership, the online viewership of CPL is over 500 million persons. And that was from the last CPL. For this time, I think it increased to about 700 million persons. So we saw that as value. And we are still checking to see if that move brought back the returns we were looking for. But I think in time, the fact that you're saying, coming from you, that you're seeing MITTCO as a brand being showcased, we see that as a win around the islands that we visited, and the CPL viewership.
And so people seeing, okay, well, this is a possibility, we like the pans, we like how they sound.
Yes.
And then inquiring, what kind of impact, what kind of lead time will it take for someone to say, hey, I like these. Can I get an order of X amount of tenors, this amount of double tenors, and being able to get that to scale, as opposed to cottage industry, one person doing everything. Was it difference in that?
Yeah. What we were able to do strategically is not mass manufacture. However, we were able to start manufacturing 11 months before we launched. So we started the business with inventory. So time August the 11th, we already had 11 months of inventory. We already checked our production. We dealt with all the quality. We dealt with chroming. So a customer coming in at that point was able to get their pans within 48 to 38 hours. So 3 days. That's a game changer. What we are seeing though, as time and momentum build up, we expect inventory to drop, but we will deal with that issue. It's a good problem to have. So that was a strategy coming into the market, having inventory. So if you want, right now we do have stock. So those who are thinking, and we could outfit an order in quick time, with quality of course, for customers. So tenors, we also have the ensemble concept. The ensemble concept is really for panel schools, and panel schools being one of our biggest goals, and not just panel schools in Trinidad, but panel schools around the world. And just to give you an idea of possibilities of that, as I say, we are going into Africa. Africa have over 25,000 schools. MITTCO's capacity right now could be around 1,000 instruments a year, which we are still testing, which will be about 100 ensembles, an ensemble being the combination of about 10 instruments, from 10 all the way down to bass. With that analogy, it will take us over 200 years to outfit Africa with panel schools. So when you look at that, you see the possibilities of economy around the company, and we will need 10 more MITTCOs. We will need franchises around the world. So that excites the team, and the team is working closely to create those markets, because those markets are not readily available. So there's a lot of groundwork. We have a significant team behind this, not just the ground staff, but the social media staff. We had a marketing team. We were able to partner with Gen X when we were setting up all these initiatives. So there's a clear focus, as now to have that focus on rule in time.
And just more, this one question before we break on this conversation if people are looking on television.
Sure.
If they're looking on digital media, you might get 5 minutes more.
Right.
But it's one thing to say, okay, well, they're pursuing new markets.
Right.
What are people on the ground in Trinidad and Tobago saying? Because people may have their preferred instrument,
Correct.
people who manufacture their instruments. Do you find people testing out the brand, checking to see if it's working for them? What is that feedback?
So right now we are bringing a certain level of awareness because with every new thing, you said it just now, persons already have their comfort. They have an artisan, they have a tuner. We have been working with this tuner for years, and we don't want to stop that. What we are saying is, come, let's talk. Come see what we offer. Come see how we can improve or add to what you're already having. So we look at the local steel bands as friends, as potential customers. Let's do a profile, because standardization is another thing. Profile, what are your instrument layouts? What are your needs? How are you looking to replenish your pans from tuning all the way down to building? Are you looking for having a certain level of engraving? Do you want to brand up your cases? Is there a level of customization to your orchestra or uniqueness you want to have around? We could have that conversation with bands. So with that awareness, come and talk to us, and we could see how we could take it from there. And then beyond that, we have been gaining momentum with sales. I mean, there's always a point of what tongue say. When you hear your pan and all these different things, we're getting a lot of positive feedback and excitement coming from on the ground. And it's just to keep scaling that up until we get to the required quotations, or not quotations, but required output that we are looking for.
And with that, we end the conversation here. If you're just looking at us on television, if you're looking at us on social media, you'll get a little more. We're speaking with Akua, Leith, the Director of Sales and Business Development of MITTCO, Musical Instruments of Trinidad and Tobago Company Limited. On behalf of the entire TTT crew, I'm Dike Rostant. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you are looking at us, this means that you're on a digital platform. We thank you for staying with us. We're speaking with Director of Sales and Business Development at MITTCO, Akua Leith. And Mr. Leith, in terms of the manufacturing process,
yes,
you said there was a lead time in terms of having inventory, but how long does it take to create a specific type of pan?
Right.
In terms of saying, okay, well, this is where we get the drums from.
Yes.
Are you getting it specifically for you,
yes,
as opposed to saying, okay, well, we're going to be getting drums from somewhere else? Take me through that process. Thank you.
We have been fortunate, as we said, Mario Joseph, who is a professional steel pan builder in the fraternity for the last 29 years. He had a certain level of expertise in terms of the drums he used at that time, the persons who helped him manufacture the pans. So that team literally, and that expertise came into MITTCO. So we source our drums specifically for our process from Japan. We also had the artisans, as I said, they themselves who have been building pans for quite some time, and we brought around production assistants to help them increase on their level of productivity. So that took place within a month or two, getting the right amount of persons in. Mario's talking about the quality he's looking at, making sure things are a particular way in terms of MITTCO standard. And MITTCO standard is DWE, meaning that, yes, we come with certain information from before, but this is how we want to move forward. Beyond that, the inventory that we have belongs to the MITTCO standard, the MITTCO instrument, the MITTCO standard, more or less I was saying. Then beyond that, we have the customized order. So the customized order, it will start when that order is placed. So if you want to have a typical 4th or 5th tenor, we have that in stock. A whole tone, double seconds from F sharp, or even from low E, we have that in stock and so forth. But if there's a 2nd and 3rd tenor, we will make that pan when the order is placed, which will have a much longer lead time before the customer receives it.
And is it a matter of needing to get a tuner who is able to do that type? So if you think about, if I remember correctly, is Professor Ken Fillmore,
right?
Who would have a different layout on his pan.
Yes, big F sharp in the center.
Everybody able to tune the pan like that, or you need to get someone who would do it specifically like that? What's that process like?
So the tuner typically could tune any pan. Persons will have preferences, but I mean, Gussie, Mario, they could go into any steel band once they know where the notes are, and they will be able to execute their job professionally. Yeah.
Bringing in people, what is that process like? So you said there were people that you brought in to help in terms of the production assistant. How do you, or are you trying to bring people along that chain from being production assistants to being the person that a production assistant would eventually help?
Exactly. So you start from that aspect. Maybe we see that as the entry point, where you have the ability to observe. The tuner builder sometimes give you the opportunity to try some stuff within that process, and that person then is eventually scaled up to move to another level. And we keep replenishing like that, where persons are moved through the system, developing their craft, developing their skill set until they become the tuner or more tuners within the industry. And I think that's a good model. Beyond MITTCO's process though, we have the CVQs in schools, the Caribbean Vocational Qualification, where steel pan manufacturing is a part of. So there's a few secondary schools around the island that does steel pan manufacturing. We're talking about MIC. We are talking about YTEP. So this is not something that is new. These are things that are happening. And those persons who have that level of experience could also come in as an intern, could also come in into a workshop, or even as an OJT to work alongside our team under the MITTCO's quality system and move forward from there. So there's a stimulus that's happening, but is where we could continue that. And from a point of introduction to a point of work and professionalism.
And the fact that you're so forward thinking means that there are things that you're thinking about that you're not necessarily doing yet.
Correct.
What are some of those things?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, one of my directors will say, Akua, you can't boil the ocean. So the vision is really far ahead, but there's, for instance, the educational side of things, the campus side of things. That's something we are enrolling. Hopefully we should start that within this year. We're talking about the interns. We have certain conversations with the universities to have interns coming from at least as early as August. We're talking about the OJT program. So there's a lot of intentions and conversations that is unfolding that we think we could start to realize within this year. And then the Panning School Council, with their vision of having panning schools and building steel pan manufacturers and tuners, they are also close in our conversation. MITTCO was fortunate to also meet with the Minister of Education, Dr. Nangasby Dolly, and even with her interests and forward thinking, we're seeing where there's a collaboration of some nature. There's so many, when you look at that mold, look at the private Trinidad, the corporate Trinidad, where their corporate social responsibility, we can have a collaboration of that nature where the government is not only pressed up upon in schools, but maybe you can outfit a school on behalf of, and then the government supplies the teaching services. So there's a lot of conversations I think that could happen, and we could come with the best situation to carry this thing forward.
And in terms of that, those conversations that need to happen, I'm grateful that we were able to have this
Yes.
one. So this has been a conversation with Director of Sales and Business Development at MITTCO, Musical Instruments of Trinidad and Tobago Company Limited, Akua, Leith. And this has been In Depth with me, Dike Rostant. Thank you so much for joining us.